I'm in the parking lot, so I should make it.
Great, thank you, Director.
Viewing perspective, everybody being the same.
It is adjustable, but it keeps all of you even on the recording. And I actually do have 9:30.
Okay, we will then call to order the May 17th, 2023 regular
Viewing perspective.
meeting of the Board of the Western Municipal Water District. Tammy, would you please call a roll?
Yes, thank you. Good morning.
It is adjustable, but
Director
it
Torres.
keeps all of you even on the recording.
And I actually do have
Director
9:30.
Ginstedt?
Good morning, I'm present.
Thank you, good morning. Director Roten.
I am here. Good morning.
Good morning. Director Rizvi.
Director Rizvi is on her way into the room as we speak.
We're gonna. Director Rizvi.
You're here.
President Gardner.
I am here.
Thank you, President Gardner. You do have a quorum today.
Great, thank you very much. At this point, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to be led by Daisy Farias, a customer service representative too, strangely enough, from the Customer Service Department. Craig, did you want to add any other introduction for Daisy?
I'm really happy she's doing
Ooh,
this, but she said
well, you know what? You're standing there, you can do either. Would everyone please rise?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you share with the board what group you work with?
So good morning. My name is Daisy Farias. I'm in customers. Oh, cannot hear me. Good morning. My name is Daisy Farias. I work in the customer service department. And as Mr. Gardner said, my title is a customer service representative too.
Daisy's on the front line of working with our customers that call in every single day. So
Ah, great.
she does a great job.
Thank
And it's not always the most the easiest job, but
No, it's not.
we have a great team in there.
Yes, we do. Oh, I've actually been working for Western Water now for 3.5 years.
Great.
Yes,
We are glad you are here.
I am also glad.
And we're-
Thank you.
We're really glad you do the work you do because it is super important.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
We do our best.
Okay, brings us to public comments. Tammy, did we receive any written comments by the deadline?
We have received no written comments, and I have no requests to speak at this time.
And do we have anyone in the audience who would like to address us this morning?
I see no requests.
Seeing none. We're going to do things a little bit out of our normal order and do a closed session. At this point, I will turn it over to our general counsel to introduce that.
Yes, Mr. President and members of the board, members of the public, the board will be going into closed session to discuss the 3 items that are listed on the agenda: conference with legal counsel, there are 2 items, and then 1 performance evaluation. Thank you.
Okay, so we will leave for closed session. We're not adjourning. And we'll be back as soon as we can, and there will be an announcement of any reportable action that the board takes. And we'll
Thank
see
you.
everybody shortly.
Thank you. And the Zoom session will remain open, but in the waiting room, so please hold.
We will reconvene once the board secretary returns. And here she is. We can't do anything without you, Tammy. Not at all. We snuck out. Okay, we have returned from closed session. Mr. General Counsel, would you prefer to do a report out of closed session at this point or at the end of the meeting?
It'd probably be appropriate to do it at this point, and I'd note for the public that there was no reportable action.
Okay. Thank you very much. That brings us back to the normal agenda. We have consent calendar, items A through I, yes. Do we have any public comment on the consent calendar, Tammy?
I've received no request to speak.
Okay, I see no members of the public in the room. Does any director wish to pull any of the items for discussion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I did have a question about 6H, sorry.
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
Was looking for my button to push.
Okay,
We'll need to pull
so
that item.
we'll pull 6H. So your motion then is the remainder of the
The
consent
remainder
calendar?
of the consent calendar.
And I'll second that.
Okay, motion and second, any discussion? Tammy, would you please do a roll call vote?
Computer's catching up just for a moment.
Of course. Gotta love technology.
Thank you. Director Denstedt,
Aye?
Director Roten,
Yes.
Director Risby,
Yes.
President Gardner.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-0.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Director Denstedt, did you want a presentation, or you just want to ask a question?
No, I just want to ask a question and see where everybody else sits on this. So it's been a long time since we've had a meeting down in Marietta, but these are for Marietta charges, and generally we have had these in the evening as well for the public hearing on these charges. So just wanted to take the temperature of everybody and see if this could be scheduled down in Marietta within its service territory to allow for the public to do. Again, we haven't had Zoom previously, and that is an option. However, it's at 9:30 in the morning instead of in the evening, which, again, is a public hearing. So just kind of wanted to take everybody's temperature on this and see where we were at.
Okay. Staff, do you have thoughts that you want to offer before we go into a discussion?
Yeah.
Well, that sounds a little dangerous.
Oh, we don't mind going in
I
a
think we
different
should have
direction
the
if we
public
think we
hearing.
should.
Is that what you wanted to hear? We should have the public hearing?
We have to have a public hearing.
Yeah, we have to have
Yeah, we
that.
have to have that.
I mean, frankly, we've done this, we've tried the evening meetings. This one, we don't typically get anyone to show up at. So, this is totally the board's decision whether, they want to be down in the area, they want to be in the evening. Honestly, I don't think you're going to get a lot of people there, but totally up to the board. Staff's more than happy doing it either way.
Okay, I would just point out that this is just the charges for new customers hooking up to the system? No? Okay, wrong. Okay,
Maybe Kevin could
Yeah,
give you
let's
a
get a
little
better
background on what it is.
Sure. I'd be glad to give an explanation and overview of them. So over time, Western has invested significant in capital facilities down in the Marietta area, including ongoing maintenance costs in both the water production and distribution system and the sewer collection system in order to provide service to both existing and future customers. So in order to promote cost sharing between existing customers and unconnected property owners, Western has historically assessed an availability charge on all parcels in the Marietta service area. And since fiscal year 2002, 2003, that charge has been $21 per acre or $21 per parcel if that parcel is less than 1 acre. That's the amount for both water and for sewer, so 21 each. Staff is recommending that these same rates apply for the upcoming fiscal year, and revenue from this proposed charge will generate approximately $131,000 for the Murrieta Water Fund and $131,000 for the Murrieta Sewer Fund. So a public hearing is required in order to set water and sewer availability charges and to place those charges on the Riverside County tax rolls.
Got it.
So we are setting a rate, but we're setting the
Right.
same rate we've had in the past.
And generally, you probably know these as standby charges.
Yes.
That's what they're generally
Right.
referred to, but they are for existing customers.
You're right.
So,
I guess my thought is, I kind of doubt anybody will show up, but I do think that it's important that we pay attention to the desires of the board member who represents the area. So my recommendation would be that if Director Denstedt thinks we should have a meeting in the area, and it should be an evening meeting, that we should accommodate that.
I agree. And I think it gives us a chance to show the customers as well that we are willing to, make room for, offering them a chance to come and see us and hear from us. So I agree.
the question would be then, if we have a regularly scheduled board meeting up here, did we want to have an evening meeting on the same night, or did we want to move it to a different spot on the calendar?
So Kevin has some thoughts on that.
All right, I would recommend moving it to a different meeting. Why? Because we're also having another public hearing which is sewer charges on the tax rolls, and this is for our Lake Hills area, which is in the Riverside service area.
What's our second meeting in July?
July 19th?
July 19th? Are we good with that?
We'll have to work with the city to see if we can get access to a facility. It is a little bit of a challenge.
It has been a challenge.
Okay.
We'll do what we can.
Is it going to delay the timing on this? Because I know we have to have published notices in a certain amount of time.
No, your super efficient staff here at Western has actually bringing this maybe a little bit earlier than we normally would. So we can accommodate a July 19th public hearing.
Okay. That would be my motion then, Mr. President, if staff can accommodate City Hall in Marietta on the 19th
And I'll second
and give that direction.
But just for clarity, would this be a second board meeting that day? Or a piece of the board meeting located there? Or are you suggesting we should do the entire board meeting?
I think there'd just be one board meeting.
I think we should do the whole meeting.
Just do the whole meeting there?
Meeting there.
Okay.
Staff would prefer one meeting.
I
It's a lot
understand.
of work to
I'm
put
like,
together a meeting.
Yes.
I would
Our board
prefer one-
secretary would like one
It
meeting.
makes sense.
I
And
would
I like
prefer
what she
what was
likes.
being,
One meeting
what's
as
before
well.
us.
So.
Manager.
Can we ask for some clarity too? If we are unable to get City Hall, would it be okay if we did it somewhere in the city of Murrieta within our service area?
Yes.
I think so. I think so.
Are we talking evening or day?
Evening.
Six
Evening.
o'clock or
Evening.
6
Yeah.
o'clock?
Generally, yes. Oh, and I don't think that conflicts with their commission. Okay.
so,
Okay.
so if I understand the motion correctly, it is that we hold the second meeting in July in the evening in the city of Murrieta. And we request staff to work with the city to find a location for that meeting. Is that an accurate representation, Director Denson?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay, I got the second. Thank you. And for clarification, if we cannot get the July 19th date, a date soon or nearby that date would be okay? Provided it accommodated everyone's schedules. So if we can't,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
I guess I would propose, because it does get, we have everyone trained, the
To do
community
the
trained, that we
second-
do it on Wednesdays. It's
Wednesday.
the
Right.
first and third, so
Right.
I would suggest that if we can't secure that, we would just move the meeting back here again. Rather than trying to have it on a different, a board meeting on a
It seems
different
to me
day.
That-
there
keep
are
it that
enough
day.
locations
Keep it the day,
in the
okay.
city of Marietta. We
Yeah.
should be able to find
Yeah.
something, even if City Hall is not available.
Yes,
Agreed.
there are a number of locations down there that have been accommodating to us in the past, so.
Thank you.
So
Right.
might I suggest as a Plan B, if for some reason it does need to be moved here, that we at least offer it in the evening?
That'd be fine,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
Okay,
Do you have enough clarification on that motion?
Thank you, Director.
okay, is the board clear on the motion?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Tammy, are you ready to do a roll call vote?
I am, thank you. Director Denstedt,
Aye.
Director Roten,
Yes.
Director Risby,
Yes.
President Gardner.
Aye.
Thank you, the motion carries 4-0.
Okay,
And I'd like to thank everybody for accommodating.
of course. So that completes the consent calendar. Do we have any items to be added to the agenda?
I do not.
Okay, our action items, the first one is Resolution 3285, recognizing the week of May the 14th to May 20th as Special Districts Week. And it looks like Mr. Headley is going to do this
No, he is
one,
not.
but-
We've got a special guest star.
All right. Better than Michael Hadley?
Well, I'm not going to make judgments, but Sarah McDonald is going to handle that for us.
And I could never claim to be better than Michael Hadley. He is representing us currently in Sacramento, so it's my pleasure, Director Gardner, members of the board, to offer a brief summary report about Resolution 3285 before you for consideration. The resolution would officially recognize the week of Sunday, May 14th to Saturday, May 20th, as Special Districts Week. By adopting this resolution, Western Water will join special districts from across the state to recognize the critical services that we as special districts provide to the community. Each year, the California Special Districts Association, more fondly known as CSDA, does sponsor a concurrent resolution to dedicate 1 week each year as Special Districts Week. This year, Senator Maria Alvarado Gil from Modesto sponsored this resolution dedicating the week. You'll likely remember that Western Water did pass similar resolution last year, so while it may seem repetitive, highlighting the importance of special districts is critically important to our customers and does bring awareness to the value that this agency and others bring to the community each and every day. You may not know, or our community may not know, that across the U.S. there are more than 30,000 special districts that provide services to millions of Americans, I should say. California has more than 200 of them independent special districts. As you know, Western Water was formed specifically as a special district in 1954 to provide water to areas of Riverside that did not formerly have access to imported water service. While customers know that their water utility, many don't realize there are other types of special districts as well, often known as the third leg or stool of government. Some examples include community services districts, parks and recreation districts, airport districts, cemetery districts, mosquito vector districts, and library districts. The very first special district in California is the Turlock Irrigation District in the Central Valley, which was formed in 1887 and whom Western Water has become a critical partner in statewide efforts to improve our water supply. We, as Western Water, do have some very special history in our region. In 1952, the Rubidoux Community Services District became the first community services district formed in California. And then in 1956, Jurupa Community Services District was formed, making Rubidoux and JCSD two of the first community services districts in California. In response to this week, should the board pass Resolution 3285, staff is ready to send a special press release highlighting the resolution
Additionally, we would then continue our partnership with CSDA to share this campaign across all of our digital resources to help get the message out about special districts and the services they provide to our community. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have and do recommend adoption of Resolution 3285.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Are we going to be placing any signage or banners or notices or pretty colorful things out to let the public know that are going to be attending our open house this weekend? That's happening, and I'll go ahead and make the motion to adopt.
In response to your question, we will have lots of different ways we're promoting Special Districts Week, and our open house event is tied timely with the week, in addition to May being Water Awareness Month, so staff will be ready to engage with our community and represent both well.
Perfect, thank you.
I'd like to second, and I just wanted to thank you for the mention and inclusion of Rubidoux Community Services District and Harupa Community Services District in our resolution. I think it's kind of awesome that Western in particular has some of those early, the early development of community services districts. So it's kind of a cool thing, and thank you for including it.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, Tammy, would you please do a roll call vote?
Director Dinstead?
Aye.
Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Rizvi?
Yes.
President Gardner?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. And let me just note before we move on to the next item that there was another special day this time that I failed to recognize, and I should have. April the 26th was Administrative Professionals Day, and we have some magnificent administrative professionals in this organization, and the board truly appreciates all of you for everything you do.
Hear, hear.
So,
I'll thank you on behalf of them. They are fantastic.
They
And
are indeed.
they make they make the vehicle move.
And hopefully they got lunch on that day.
I'm sure they all had lunch.
They did.
They actually received a special training, a technology training that day, and lunch followed.
great. Okay, our next item is Resolution 3286, supporting the nomination of Director Denstedt to the Association of California Water Agencies Region 9 Board of Directors. And Mr. Miller has
I'll
presentation.
take this one myself. So Director Denstead, I believe, is up for her third term on the Region 9 board. The Region 9 board is very active at Aqua. Harvey Ryan has been the president of the Region 9 board, and he's been very boisterous at Aqua to try and push some new initiatives, and one of them being continued support for what we're trying to do with Solve the Water Crisis and with California Water for All. So Director Denstead has been very active on that committee, and I think that this is an outstanding nomination. So I'll leave it to the board for discussion.
Okay. Let me double check for public comment first.
We have none.
Okay. Is there discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion.
I will second.
Okay, I can't really third, but
Well, you can.
I think I think Director Denstead has done an outstanding job for us in this position, and I'm pleased that she wants to continue to do it. So with that, Tammy, we have a motion and a second. Would you please do a roll call vote?
Yes, thank you. Director Denstedt?
Aye, and I am certainly pleased to continue to represent our agency and our region at the state level. Thank you.
Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Rizvi?
Yes.
President Gardner?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-0.
Okay. Next item is to approve two side letters of agreement to the 2021 to 2026 memorandum of understanding between Western Municipal Water District and the Western Municipal Water District Employees Association, and one side letter of agreement to the 2021 to 2026 confirmation of understanding between the Western Municipal Water District and the management/professional/confidential employees. And it says here that Ms. Judd is going to do that. Craig, did you want to introduce anything further?
Well, I'd just like to congratulate her for having the longest title we've ever had in one of our agenda items. So, but yeah, so we need to do this. Can you give us the description of what we're doing and why we're doing it?
I would be delighted, and I will not make you suffer through the very long title again. But thank you, Craig. Good morning, President Gardner, board members, staff, and guests. I think we ran them all out of here. I don't know if there's anybody online, but welcome if you're still there. And we do have 3 side letters before you today, which management has shared with the executive committee, and we are recommending approval, of course. I'll keep it brief because side letter number 1, I'll just boil it down for you. It's an incentive program with an agreement between Western and the Employee Association. The incentive program will allow up to 4 of our Class A licensed drivers, and those are going to be out at our operations teams. They get to volunteer for this special assignment, but what they need to do in turn is make sure that they have tanker and hazmat endorsements on their Class A license to be part of this special assignment. Right now, we have 1 individual who is fully licensed, and the problem with that is we only have 1 person to do the special needs assignment, which is to take fuel out to our various locations that need fuel. So any equipment that requires fuel and our vehicles. And that could be on a routine, an on-call, or an emergency basis. So we decided, with consultation with our operations teams, it would behoove us to have some additional drivers that can be on call so we don't make the one that we have do all the work and get burnt out. So this special assignment provides an incentive of a one-time $1,500 bonus that says thank you for making sure you have that Class A license with the endorsements. And then those who are approved and stay with the program, maintain that license, they'll get an additional $1,000 biweekly throughout the year for that assignment. And that way we shore up the shortage that we have of people that can do that special assignment. And I have it on good authority that we already have several individuals that want to do this and be considered. So that's the side letter number 1. Side letter number 2 between Western and the Employee Association, along with side letter number 1 for the professional management and confidential group, they're essentially the same. They are amending some of the terms of the agreements that we have with these 2 groups, and they are based on California laws that have been enacted, and we needed to update both of our agreements to make sure we are complying with those laws. The first law is amending the California Family Rights Act and adding in a group of expanding the class of people that can be considered under taking family medical leave from our agency or California Family Rights Act. It extends that group to a designated person, meaning it's not just a family member that you can designate as somebody that you need to care for. You can essentially say to Western, I have this designated person that I need to care for. And a designated person could be somebody that you have a very close relationship with, or somebody that you have taken care of in the past. And so employees will have the opportunity to take leave in order to care for that individual that has a medical need. It has to be medically necessary, and the employee can use that designation only once in a 12-month rolling calendar year. And so that would apply to both the Employee Association and the management, professional, and confidential groups. The second item amends through the California Fair Employment and Housing Act. It requires us to allow employees to take up to 5 days of bereavement leave instead of the 3 days that we had previously. And that is in a nutshell what those side letters are for. The 2 side letters that are based on California laws, we're required to comply with those, and this just updates the language in both of the agreements so we can make sure that we give that information to our employees as well. And I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Okay, any questions of Ms. Judd? Okay. I would just point out a couple of things. On the 2 side letters dealing with the changes in state law, we have to provide for this whether we make our written policies and agreements conform with the law or not. We're just conforming our labor agreements with changes in the law. And it is not uncommon at all in industry for truck drivers who have special endorsements, whether it's hazmat or any range of things, to get extra pay for having that. They may get a higher salary and no bonuses, but it's not uncommon at all. And it really is a significant problem if you only have one person who is qualified. It's difficult on that person, but also puts the district in the position of maybe having to go outside to get fuel deliveries to the field if our one driver is unavailable for whatever reason. I think these are really good ideas. The executive committee did agree with it, and my recommendation is that we approve all 3 of these.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion
I'll second it.
and a second. Any discussion? If not, Tammy, would you please do a roll call?
Thank you. Director Denstedt?
Aye.
Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Rizvi?
Yes.
President Gardner?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-0.
Okay. Item D is a good one. Something that I've kind of been waiting for us to do. I think we all have.
Yeah.
Melissa, do you want to tell us about Resolution 3280? Craig, do you want to do introduction or?
Yeah, so, this is something we've been talking about for some time. There are a few agencies that, for some reason, are very cautious and they don't want to do this, but we're basically rolling back our level, our shortage level, because of the wet hydrology that we've had this year. And I think it's a very good message that we want to share with the public, because the public thinks that we're in much better position than we are. So to us, it's counterintuitive to not do this. So Melissa has been working with us to make this happen. So Melissa, why don't you give us the details?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to go over Resolution 3280, but before I kind of get into that, I'm also going to give a little bit of a water supply update just to really show us where we're at with the water supply that's really driving this decision. So precipitation, here on the graphic, you can see how have we been doing compared to the very dry years, the average, and then the very wet years. We're doing pretty good. We're right now following on track with 2018 to 2019 daily precipitation. And I believe there's supposed to be a couple more storms coming. So we might see this actually increase a little bit more as well. And then snowpack, we've been hearing that snowpack is the highest it's been, and we can still see that normal to date is 327% above normal. Which is huge, especially for this day as we're starting to see a lot of that snow melt. And then here we can see, just compared to averages and precipitation, where we actually saw the rainfall occur. And you can see we've gotten a little bit of rain here in May, and the month's not over yet, but we're actually a little bit below average for May. But you can see December, January, March, extremely above average here with a lot of inches of rain that we've seen. So a lot of this is turning out really great and better than I think a lot of us anticipated when we were in the middle of the drought and hoping for this, and we have received it. Storage levels, so how are the reservoirs doing? Our big 6 reservoirs, most of them are mostly full. I mean, you can see a couple that are smaller are not, but Oroville, Shasta, and San Luis are
pretty much 98% full, 99% full, and altogether about 81% full, with normal being about 78% full. So we are above normal on everything, and so that's really driving a lot of our decisions. And just a comparison, we've got 2019 Oroville, 2021 Oroville, and then 2023, which looks like a completely different ecosystem here, just full of water, and even they're releasing water down to the rivers. And then in addition to this, DWR, we started out with a very small 5% allocation of the State Water Project in December 2022. And happy to announce that April, we're at 100%, which is, I think we've heard before, the first time in a long time that we've actually seen this percent this high. So following along with what Craig has said, it's hard to have all of these great above average, 100%, and not change our shortage level. So that's kind of the communication message that we're really working on, is that we are rolling back due to this great weather and climate that we've seen. In addition to that, the state has kind of refocused their restrictions. So they changed their voluntary 15% water conservation target due to the drought. They've ended that. They've also ended the requirement for local agencies to implement level 2 response actions in their drought contingency plans or water shortage contingency plans. But what they did do was that they did maintain emergency orders for certain groundwater areas. They have maintained wasteful water use bans. Make conservation a way of life message is continuing, and they're maintaining orders on watersheds that are still in a drought. But overall, all the states are technically still in that drought emergency, so that has stayed as well. And locally, we've seen that Metropolitan has done a lot to refill our water supplies, and Diamond Valley Lake being one of them. So that's really great to see that, we were really heavily reliant on that, and it's being refilled. So, and again, another reason for our water security and reliability. So as we talk about it regionally, we're pivoting to kind of this resiliency message. So we are continuing to monitor the State Water Project and Colorado River conditions. We are exploring groundwater banking opportunities, which the board is aware of, continuously pursuing drought grant funding opportunities, which you guys are also aware of, and then continuing our regional messaging and outreach and our conservation programs. So going into a little bit more details about Resolution 3280, this is to implement stage 1 of our water shortage contingency plan. So our water shortage contingency plan, and specifically Ordinance 394, was adopted January 19th, 2022. Based on this ordinance, the Board of Directors via resolution can change stages at any time. And Western has been in stage 2 for a long time. They've been different stages, but since 2017, we were in stage 2 under Ordinance 384. And then when we adopted Ordinance 394, we also adopted a stage 2 at that time. So this is the first time in a long time we're actually rolling back to this stage 1. And again, the local supplies that we've been seeing, the state supplies we've been seeing, and then the governor's rescinded order has really been what's driving our decision to change our stage. Just to point out here, Ordinance 394 and this stage 1 shortage level is only for Western's retail service area. So stage 1 is what we call Water Supply Watch, and we kind of also subtitle it Water Use Efficiency is a Way of Life. So we still continuously ask our customers to reduce up to 10% of their water usage. We're asking them to use water efficiency, continue to participate in our water use efficiency programs. There are still water waste prohibitions that from the state, they are required to make sure they're not wasting water in this ordinance as well. And again, as a reminder, it's against the law to waste water at any stage. Some of our permanent responses that are in stage 1 is you need to repair plumbing and irrigation sprinkler leaks within 96 hours. Install low-flow devices, maintain your irrigation systems to prevent any waste, which means don't have your sprinklers running down the driveway, making sure that's really touching the landscapes. You need to water landscapes between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. This is really to make sure that you're not losing water to evaporation. Avoid irrigation during measurable rain events and 2 days thereafter, right? If you're getting the natural rain and natural irrigation, you don't need to irrigate. And then use automatic self-closing, self-shut-off nozzles for hoses. Again, more permanent responses, no washing down hard surfaces like sidewalks, driveways, patios. Construction operations should only use water for purposes that are required by the regulatory agencies, and that they should use non-potable and recycled water where possible. Eating, drinking establishments should provide water upon specific request, and HOA should really focus on eliminating irrigation runoff from residential and HOA common areas. And all the shortage measures are listed in Resolution 3280 and will be posted on our website as well following this board meeting. So moving to stage 1, the Board of Directors' approval of a resolution is required. It becomes effective immediately upon adoption announcement. We're required to publicly notice this within 10 days of adoption, and we're doing it in English and Spanish for the press enterprise. And we'll also have a press release that's going to be released, and all of that information will also be posted on our website. And finally, for stage 1, there's going to be no financial impact to our retail customers. So in terms of messaging, how we're doing this, it's all about water supply and really shifting our approach based on these evolving conditions. We've seen it's wet, we've seen it's raining. Hopefully you've all seen the funny TikToks about really edging on to what's popular here. But just acknowledging this weather conditions, and we feel that moving through to a stage 1 is really appreciating our customers' efforts for what they did to get us through the drought. Educating our customers on our current water supply, knowing that we also have the Colorado River that we need to be aware of, and making sure that's included in messaging. Using this to really share the Solve the Water Crisis and what our statewide system needs. Retain that targeted approach by focusing on what customers can continue to do, and then continue to offer our customer support programs. Outreach, again, many different types, on tap, emails, and then of course all of our social media is being used for our outreach and this change of messaging. So finally, we're asking the board to adopt Resolution 3280, implementing water shortage stage 1 of Western Municipal Water District's updated retail customer water supply shortage contingency program. Happy to answer any questions.
Do any board members have questions?
I have a comment, or a question, I guess, and a comment. First of all, this is so exciting to be moving the other direction. When I know like a year ago, we all wondered if we have another year of no rain, what is that going to look like? So thank you that we did not have to think about that. I just had a quick question back on I think it's page 8, state refocuses restrictions. Is the restriction still in place for the non-functional turf with commercial and industrial?
That is correct. That is still an active restriction, and so that doesn't change with our shortage stage. That stays active because that was a separate resolution the Western Board adopted.
Okay, awesome. And
that's still
we
a
have that.
requirement from the state board.
Yes.
So the state board did not back out of that.
And then didn't we allocate a certain amount of money to do some projects in some of those more visible places to help them?
We are working really hard on that. Sarah,
Oh,
you want to
okay.
give a quick update?
Yes, so absolutely, the board directed staff to create pilot programs that does exactly that, to transform or to partner with our community to transform specific sites that are very visible and to demonstrate what water-wise landscaping can look like. I'm happy to report that we're in final stages of an agreement with the City of Murrieta Public Library to have an area at their site. We're also doing the same with Riverside Public Utilities, and I'll be looking forward to bringing an update when we're a little bit closer to project time to the board and through committee.
Great, thank you. That was it. I would make the motion if there's no more discussion to adopt Resolution 32.
Second?
Okay. Dr. Denstedt, did you have a comment?
Nope, I just wanted to make the motion, and she made it, and I seconded it.
Okay. Any other comments? I would just point out that our water situation, while it looks good now, really highlights the state that the state is in of not having adequate infrastructure. There is so much water that has already flowed to the ocean that could have been captured, moved, and stored if we had the facilities for it, and there's a whole bunch more in snowpack. And that's part of why some of the reservoirs are not at capacity. There's water to put them at capacity, but they also serve a flood control function, and they're keeping them down to catch some of the snow melt for flood protection. And so that's, we may in general manager's report talk about a certain bill, or not.
Happy to.
But,
I'll actually add something to your comment, President Gardner, is, a few of our very friendly agencies, Friant and Turlock, both have flood control requirements in their agencies, and they're looking up into the hills, and they're kind of shaking in their boots because they have millions of acre feet of snow, water in snow, that is just waiting to melt, and they don't have millions of acre feet of storage capacity. And so they are very concerned about their flood carrying capacity in their channels because they don't have storage facilities. So I'm very happy and that you're bringing up this infrastructure issue because it's not just the State Water Project.
No.
We talk about that a lot, but these are irrigation districts that have been around since the 1800s that still don't have adequate investment in storage and flood carrying capacity. And we are all going to see this as the summer plays out. When that snow starts really melting, you're going to hear stories about flooding up in the ag areas in those two districts.
well, Tulare Lake is back.
Yep. And
At Aqua, I spoke with a woman who is in the farming community, and she said there are local fights about whose land is going to be kept dry and whose land is going to get flooded. And it's a real concern, but.
there was a session at Aqua.
Yeah.
About how to message about, the weather, and since we're out of the drought. But everybody was concerned is that we need to keep our messaging about the lack of infrastructure we have. Things are looking good right now, but they could have been excellent if we had that infrastructure. So
And
it was a good
we have
session.
seen that our current system is only good for 2 years or so if we get really dry years. So if the next 2 or 3 years are really dry, we'll be right back where we were. And just one other point on the storage, if we had more water in storage, it could be released for environmental benefit, for fish spawning, for temperature control in waterways for the fish. There are a number of environmental benefits that come from having sufficient storage that you can release water when there's more of a need for it in the environment, as well as agriculture and human consumptive use. So, anyway, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Okay, Tammy, would you please do a roll call vote?
Thank you. Director Denstedt?
Aye.
Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Rizvi?
Yes.
President Gardner?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-0.
I would like
Melissa.
to thank Melissa
Yeah.
and Ryan and their teams. They have been on top of this the entire winter, been working really hard for every board presentation to keep you all up to date on what's happening statewide. They've been doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Oh, I was just going to comment, Ryan, again, Melissa got to give the good news and you do not, so.
Well, Director Denstedt, if you wanted to ask Ryan how he did on the prediction of the state allocation, I wouldn't mind you asking him.
Oh, yeah, yes, Ryan, how did that go?
I lost. but we all won.
Who did win?
I'm not going to mention names.
Mr. Barr, good for you, okay.
Okay, our last action item is a budget approval for $7,527,311 for the Magnolia Avenue interconnection with RPU. Mr. Kawai.
Yeah, so Derek will have a the details of the project, but just to put this in the big picture context, this is a very important project for us to help us work with RPU. And this project is another interconnection with RPU at what I would call a better location, a more accessible location in their system. So this is a very important project, and Derek will give us the details on the project.
Great. So, yes, this is very timely. We just talked about lowering our drought, removing the drought, and the idea that we have to have prepare for the next one by having facilities. So in that vein, the SARCUP program was set up, which is the Santa Ana River Conservation and Conjunctive Use Program. And the idea is that is to store water during wet years and to retrieve that water and convey it during the dry years. So interconnections between agencies leverage existing infrastructure to convey water throughout the region. And so this is why this project is eligible for SARCUP funds. Interconnections also strengthen the robustness and resiliency of the region by allowing the adjacent agencies to support each other in emergencies. In this case, the interconnection will allow movement of local groundwater between Western's wholesale agencies of Riverside, Corona, Norco, Jurupa Community Services District, Temescal Valley Water District, Elsinore Valley Water District, and Western's retail service area. The Magnolia interconnection will consist of connection to Riverside's lower zone transmission line at Magnolia and Merced in Riverside. The connection will also have a vault constructed in the median of Magnolia for the RPU meter, control valve, and SCADA installation. From there, a 16-inch pipeline will traverse about a half mile to the Sterling pump station. We'll have access to the chemical mixing systems at the station to allow for adjustment for disinfection of chemicals. Now, the project budget for this endeavor is $7,527,311. Of this, about 75% of the project will be covered by SARCUP funding for all of the construction-related expenses. There are quite a few actions for this item, so I'm going to list them and then give a little commentary on each one, what each one is doing. So the actions that are requested of this board are, number one, amend the approved budget for the Magnolia interconnection with the Riverside Public Utilities project by $6,821,345 from $705,966 to $7,527,311. And then to amend the board adopted capital improvement and facilities plan of fiscal year 22-23 and the fiscal year 23-24 for the project by a total of $5,821,345,000 from $1 million to $6,821,345 under Riverside Potable Water System Improvement Fund for 204. Now, what this does is it allocates budget for the project and moves the money from it basically allocates the money into the budget and moves the fiscal year budget. We're adjusting it so that we're showing that our capital improvement plan is up to date. The third item is award a construction contract for the project in the amount of $4,940,928 to T.E. Roberts Incorporated of Irvine, California for the construction of the project. Now, this was based on a public works bidding in which we received 3 bids. T.E. Roberts submitted the lowest responsive and responsible bid. Number 4 is to award a professional services contract for the project in the amount of $598,548 to Berg and Associates of San Pedro, California for a construction, management, and inspection services contract. Now, this award was based on review of submitted proposals from 7 firms, and Berg and Associates was deemed to have submitted the best proposal. The 5th item that we're requesting is to approve a budget in the project in the amount of $62,500 for project management and support services. Now, a quick aside on this, this is actually a placeholder because in committee, we had a different line item, that action, and it was specifically to RBF for project management. But since then, the person that we're using for project management has moved firms. And so we've adjusted it, and it shows up as a budget item. And they're currently working for TKE. And so I just wanted to make sure we corrected the record on that, that it's not going to be going to the RBF, it's going to TKE for this particular item. Now, the GM is going to be able to execute this contract because it's under the $100,000 authority and requires no action at the board level at this time. The number 6 item is an amendment to the professional services contract with Dudek Incorporated for the project in the amount of $39,260. Now that's from $551,982 to $591,242,000 for, sorry, I did it wrong. That's $591,242 for design support services during construction. Now, this is an extension of the designer's contract so they can perform the work to ensure that the design intent's met during construction. So those are all the items. We do have on the line in support of these actions from Berg and Associates. We have David Smith, and we also have from T.E. Roberts, Kim Newton. Kim Newitt. And I am available for answering any questions.
Okay, let me first ask if the contractors on the line would like to make any comments.
This is Kim Newitt for T.E. Roberts, and no, just taking notes at this point.
Okay, thank you.
And
I
this
assume
is
everyone
Dave
is available to answer questions if needed. But
Yes, and I think Mr. Smith has a comment.
Mr. Smith.
Yeah, this is Dave Smith with Berg and Associates. We're the construction management firm, and we just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity, and we look forward to working with the staff on this project. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Any questions or comments from board members? Of course. Okay.
And nobody from Dudek joining us on the call today?
From Dudek, I do not have a person on the line from Dudek.
Okay. Couple of quick questions. So on the number 5 for your 62,500 for the project management support services, it's going to TKE. Are you actually wanting us to authorize that even though it's under the general manager's signing authority to be able to do that contract? Are you still wanting the board to do that before we have that name in place?
So what we did was we just changed it to being approved the budget for that particular item. So it's essentially the item is saying approve budget for the project in the amount of $62,500 for project management support services.
Okay.
And it's not specifically to TKE.
Okay, and I just wanted to make a comment in the staff report. The grant funding totals are $5.6 million for construction on that, correct? Because you said 75% is covered
That's
by
right.
the grants, but I wanted to throw the dollar amount out there. Is that?
That is correct, but it only covers the construction-related costs.
Okay. No, I just want to make sure we, in full disclosure, we're letting everybody know where this money is coming from and that it's being funded by grant stuff. And then my other questions, obviously, guys, you know who I am, so it's going to be asking our bid awardees, potentially, the questions. I am your no change order girl. So I just wanted to hear from the contractors being awarded these construction contracts, if they had any problems with any of the bid documents or had any questions or foresee anything, because I don't like change orders. I like on time and on budget.
We do not see any change orders at this time, and we're with you.
Okay, great. And that was the representative from
That was-
T.E. Roberts,
T.E. Roberts.
correct?
That
Kim
was
Newitt.
That's Kim Newitt from T.E. Roberts.
And from Berg?
Well, Berg is actually the people who will be helping us out with making sure that there aren't change orders. They're going to be doing the construction management. But certainly, David, did you have a comment I saw?
Similar comments to the contractor. I haven't seen anything that would indicate a change order at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And you said Dudek is not,
I do not have them online today.
okay. Okay, with that, Mr. President, I'll go ahead and move the item.
Okay, were there any other questions? If not, is there a second?
I'll make a second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Tammy, when you're ready, would you please do a roll call vote?
Thank you. Director Dinstedt?
Aye?
Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Rizvi?
Yes.
President Gardner?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, directors.
Okay, that concludes our action items. Time for reports. Mr. General Counsel.
Yes, President and members of the board, sorry to keep harping on this, but SB 1439, the bill that was adopted last year, changing contributions to potentially disqualifying conflicts. There is a hearing before the trial court next Thursday, at which time we expect to get some guidance from the trial court. So once I see that, I will definitely let the board know where we stand on that. Again, that's just a trial court. I would not be surprised if, regardless of where the trial court goes, that gets appealed, but at least we'll get some idea of where that court is leaning. So I wanted to keep you updated on that. Second thing is, the first meeting in June, I will be out of town, so I will not be able to attend the board meeting, so Assistant General Counsel Holland Stewart will be attending in my stead.
Good. Okay, General Manager's report. Mr. Miller.
All right, I got a few things. So President Gardner already led in with SB 366, so I'll give a real brief update. So the bill got through the Environment, Wildlife, and Water Subcommittee at the Senate, 13-0, so that was good. A lot of work went into that. We had a hard time even getting it before the committee for a discussion, so we did very well there. It is now before the Senate Appropriations Committee. It's on suspense. We find out tomorrow if it's coming off of suspense. We certainly have our fingers crossed. We'll be a little bit nervous tomorrow, waiting for that to happen. If it doesn't come off suspense, it's basically dead, and we start over next year. So we're cautiously optimistic, but we'll see what happens tomorrow. And we have orchestrated a very significant push to get that off suspense tomorrow. We have some really fun events going on this week. So tonight, our Water is Life recognition event right here, 6 o'clock. Be here. We're going to award the Krieger grants and also the student art contest winners. So that'll be really fun tonight. This is one of the fun events that we get to do. Saturday is another really fun event. So, you know, pre-pandemic, we did an open house. We've rebranded that as the Waterworks Wonders and Open House. So our staff is really excited. You'll see the parking lot out here full of booths and exhibits, and we have a lot of RSVPs. We have like 1,000 RSVPs.
Wow.
That's great.
So we'll see who shows up, but we're really excited about that. It may overwhelm us a little bit, but that's a good problem to have.
Has it gotten out?
The In-N-Out truck will be here. And we hope they have enough, we hope they come loaded. Because we have more people than we thought we were going to have.
Good.
So it'll be a great event. So
Good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have, 11 till 2. So be here, mingle with our staff. They're all excited to be here and show off what they do, and they do great things. So it was really fun last time when we did this. So I'm really looking forward to it. Third item, The pipeline replacement program is working its way through Mission Grove. So about 40% of the way through, we're replacing almost 7,000 feet of pipe. So that's going well. It's been quiet, which is a good thing, and they're working away. So happy to have that going on. And then the last update is our Water Hero program. So let me throw it over to Sarah and let her give you an update on the Water Hero program.
Excellent. Well, thank you. As mentioned, May, in addition to being Special Districts Week, May is also Water Awareness Month. So as part of spotlighting all things water, Western is rolling out a new pilot curriculum to 2 schools, William Howard Taft Elementary School in the Riverside service area, and also William Collier Elementary School in Murrieta. The Western Water Week pilot curriculum does consist of an age-appropriate book that you have on your dais, accompanying lessons plans for students in grades K through 2 and 3 through 5. As part of Western Water Education Program, this curriculum does meet all statewide standards. And really the goal is to assess the desire for our local schools and teachers to incorporate this water-focused curriculum in their classroom and really understand the success of tools. Hear our teachers' feedback, if it was something easy to implement, how it was received by students, to assess future education programming related to water. A small number of books will be distributed as prizes during our Waterworks Wonders event this weekend. So those lucky few will get their own copies. And the stories themselves do help our students understand where their water comes from, but specifically through the lens of our area, our water story here at Western Water, through a series of fun superhero adventure characters. I'd really like to applaud staff. Our water resources team and customer experience teams have been collaborating on this for the last year with some of our education partners to make this pilot program come to life. And like I said, the results will really help us inform desires for future focus when it comes to water education in our elementary schools. So with that, you're welcome to peruse your own copies for you. Happy to answer any questions. I'm also joined by Melissa Matlock, who's been the project lead helping these stories come to life. So happy to answer any questions, but looking forward to hearing from our teachers and students how they receive the curriculum.
Great. Questions?
Just comment, these are amazing.
Yeah,
These
they're
are
really
wonderful.
nice.
I'm super excited to read them, and good job, you guys. This is absolutely wonderful.
If I can add, I know Melissa has shared them with her own family, and her teenager even commented 2 thumbs up.
Oh, absolutely.
Tough critic.
I love it, absolutely. Great job, you guys.
Great.
That concludes the GM comments.
All righty. Brings us to directors' reports and requests. The first one is SAPA. SAPA met yesterday. They approved $6,520 from the Building Reserve Fund for design of the SAPA building landscape and irrigation improvements. The landscape is a little old and tired there, and it is less water efficient than it could be. So those will get improved. Adopted new Inland Empire brine line rates, which will be effective July of this year. Adopted a resolution supporting the nomination of Kathy Green as candidate for president of Aqua. Adopted a resolution recognizing Mark Norton, a 32-year employee of SAPA, the longest-serving SAPA employee ever, who is retiring end of this month. And, maybe most significant, authorized, it says authorized, but really we directed the general manager to send a support letter for Senate Bill 366 to appropriate legislators and ask their Sacramento representative to push that bill. So, and they do understand the urgency of getting the bill off suspense by tomorrow. So
Yeah, and-
hopefully that letter will be there today.
Great news, and thank you very much for your input to make that move. I think it was going to move anyway, but I think your description really helped out the urgency and the importance of that action. So thank you very much for your input.
Glad to. MWD.
Thank you. So a lot of committee assignments being set up and a lot of subcommittees are being set up. So there's a lot of activity going on, a lot of discussions that are going on for demand management and conservation programs, as well as climate action plans, as well as a couple of other long-term planning goals along. So there's a lot of subcommittees that are being formatted and set up, and kind of curious to see how that's all going to shake out when everything is said and done, since they're smaller subsets under a home committee. So we're kind of different structure than I think has been deployed in the past. And people are still trying to grasp the idea of where this is going to go and how successful it's going to be in accomplishing very specific tasks and how long it'll take. So kind of interesting to watch that whole process take place. A lot of money has been moving around for contracts and getting a lot of projects and things done. So one of the things that I asked at committee was specifically regarding the budget and how we're going to discuss the budget in its totality, what it means for the rate structure, because there was promises that were made. There was a drop down of a percentage that was allocated from the last budgets, but there's still a gap. We still have revenues that are going down and decreasing, and we've got fixed debts costs and fixed debt service and things, and there's a big gap in between, and those things aren't leveling out. And there's a lot of pots of money out there, and so I specifically asked for an agenda item to come back to the Finance Committee to discuss what all of those mean and where are we going to make this gap so that we understand going into the next rate setting how that's all going to have a factor, because there's a lot of new people come on even since I've been on Met for the last 2 years. So it's going to be an interesting discussion. I'm looking forward to having a very interesting discussion with staff here in house so that we can prep and I can have appropriate questions moving forward and how we can look at that structure, because ultimately it's going to trickle down to us, and we're going to figure out how are we going to do that? If we're not selling our product and we're decreasing our sales, how are we going to manage what our debt is? Because the debt's not going away. So interesting items of discussions that will be taking place. And then I will be on a plane here in a couple of hours. I am heading to Scottsdale for the Colorado River Water Law Conference that several Met directors are going to be attending, because we still have issues on the Colorado River. Bill Hastingcamp is supposed to be one of the big to-dos out there to lead that conference off, and we have a lot at stake there of what the agreements are going to be and what's going to happen on the Colorado River. So I am really sad that I won't be here tonight to see one of my favorite things ever, to get all of the kids and their awards done for their art projects, and Water is Life. So I'm really sad about that, but we've got big policy that I need to understand and wrap my head around out there. So that, I think, is enough.
Just bring back a full allocation.
Yeah, absolutely. We want our million acre feet, right? So
1.3 million.
exactly. Okay.
Okay. Next two are mine. Chino Basin Water Master did meet the end of April. It was a very routine meeting. The one significant action was they adopted they call it a board philosophy about staffing. And it's just a nice statement about how the Water Master as an organization appreciates and supports its staff. And that was really it for that meeting. The Chino Basin Desalter Authority, I covered for Director Roten, who was doing something else, probably much more fun. It might have involved mice, but large mice. Oh, okay. That's right.
Did you say mice?
I was thinking Disneyland.
Oh, no.
So they adopted a small change order to design contract for the Chino 2 desalter pellet slurry pumps and associated piping. It's kind of an evolving project. It's not really a surprise that there was a change order. But they've learned some things from past experience on this, and it's going to be a good upgrade. They adopted the budget for fiscal year 23-24, adopted the budget as proposed by staff and recommended by the Finance Committee. And they have an ongoing issue, I guess, with the city of Eastvale. As a special district, they do not have to get permits or approval from local cities for most things. They're doing a well improvement, and the city said, well, we would like you to come get a permit for that. And they said, oh, well, we're not going to, and they said, yes, you are. So I think that is going to resolve itself without getting into the courts, but they did adopt a resolution specifically finding that the work on this well is for the purpose of providing their services and is not within the jurisdiction of the city of Eastvale. So that was interesting. And that was it for them. RCRA.
7th, we had a couple of purchase order approvals for procurement of bleach. We had some increase in purchase order for biosolid disposal because of the increase in fuel and prices. We had a receive and file fiscal year 2021-22 auditor's report. Everything looked good. All the audited financial statements were good. We approved an adoption of resolution for establishing rates to be charged for conveyance, treatment, and disposal of wastewater, and given the administrator authority to open annual purchase orders. We also had a very interesting and a deep discussion about how the some of the directors get paid from their agencies to attend those meetings, and some of the agencies do not pay their directors, and those directors had, a lot of discussion, and it was discussed, should the agencies pay for them or RCRA board is going to pay, and how it's going to work out. So we have given directors direction to the staff to bring up some resolution of how it's going to work out. I think they had that same discussions at their executive meeting, and they said it's not going to work out, and it should go up to individual boards of to decide. But at that board, the directors really pushed that we should be paid, because it's only fair that some directors get paid and some don't. So the staff has been directed to come up with a resolution or a policy. So let's see what happens next meeting. And we're supposed to meet on May 25th, but that meeting has been pushed to June 1st. And that's about it.
Okay. WRCOG.
WRCOG. So a couple of interesting discussions that took place at WRCOG. And one of the most interesting discussions was to talk about Chuckawalla Valley State Prison in Blythe. and how WRCOG has now taken a position for the state to reconsider the closure of that because it would be a significant economic downfall for the city of Blythe to remove that prison and remove all the personnel from it, because it's a significant driver of the economy out there for all the people that are housed, all of the staff, all of the support people, and what that means to that community. So that letter was done. And they appointed a new representative to OWOW to replace Ted Hoffman, who unfortunately passed away from the city of Norco and had been serving for quite some time for OWOW. And Wes Speak is now from the city of Corona, has been appointed to that position to replace Ted Hoffman in his passing. And then as a reminder, we have General Assembly that will be coming up for June the 29th, I believe. Is that the date? Am I correct in that?
That is correct.
Okay. June the 29th for General Assembly. And as a notation of what took place for the Admin and Finance Committee, I have been nominated to fill the second vice chair position. So holding true with that, in 2025, I will be the first chairperson from our water representatives to be the chair for WRCOG.
Congratulations.
So, well, or condolences, one of the two. So it would be nice to have water as a prominent source in that as we plan and look to the future, and I'm sure our communications staff will be super excited to think about our themes as we come up to General Assembly for those years. So it's traditionally been held by the chairperson to be able to come up with what that's going to be. So looking forward to having water make its charge. Woohoo! And that is all I have.
Thank you. Sarah?
We did not meet this month, so maybe next month.
Okay, director's comments. Director Dennstedt, we'll start at your end.
Oh. Yeah, I did forget about that, didn't I? Okay, no, I'll go back. So General Manager has just passed me a note that clearly I forgot because we all talked about this and know about it, but on my Met report, the Rubidoux agreement has passed. So after a long battle, I do want to thank all of the hands in here. This was a super, super frustrating process for me to not be able to advocate on our behalf. Let me tell you, I bit my tongue so many times. I sat in those meetings and was grinding my teeth. I actually had to step out and take aspirin because I had given myself a headache from listening to some of the comments that went on during this process. So thank you to the general manager for advocating on behalf of Rubidoux and going out to all the general managers that were out there and pushing that. We got a number of letters of support that were sent in because of those conversations that you had. And thank you to our board president as well for meeting with some of the representatives because he was able to and I was not, because it's against all of the rules of Met. And under the act, I'm not allowed to advocate on behalf and had to recuse from all conversations with my colleagues and anybody associated with them at Metropolitan. So, but job well done, guys. Job well done. So thank you for that reminder because we did our cheering and we did our celebrating and everything and did that, but I forgot to mention that. So thank you.
No one's ever worked so hard for 2,000 acre feet.
Oh my goodness.
Water.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. So thank you very much for that reminder.
And we were happy to do it. We coordinated with Rubidoux and they thanked us profusely and it literally was the principle of the issue.
Absolutely.
We're not going to lose.
No, absolutely. So job well done. And I already reported I'm going to Scottsdale for a conference here and attended the Aqua Conference. I'll go ahead and give that report as well. So Region 9 got huge kudos up there. We got it at the breakfast that it was one of the best Region 9 programs down at the Salton Sea that anybody has attended. So, you know, that's a huge push for our area. So now I looked at all of my fellow board members on Region 9. I went, okay, now guys, what are we going to do for the next one? Because we've got a huge bar that we have to now meet. So it was really great. We had great attendance at our Region 9 meeting up there. So a lot of good reports that came out of that. And General Manager did his speaking piece, so I think that was really well received. I got a lot of compliments that said, wow, your General Manager is an actual good speaker. So just, we got to keep him at a certain level, guys. Got to keep him at a certain level. But got those comments from people up at Aqua, so I think it was a very well-attended conference. The weather was great, and I think it was a good time had by all. So thank you.
Director Rizvi.
Same thing, attended Aqua. It was very, Monterey is beautiful. It was, the weather was nice, great attendance, and a couple of programs. As I said, I attended two of them, which was very interesting to me. One was how our water agency's messaging, now that this year has been so, wet, but we still are struggling with a lot of infrastructure issues. So that was very interesting. And then how that one session I attended was about water recharge, and every agency, the biggest issue came up was legislation and restrictions, and how what's going on with the legislator and how they can help. So that was very interesting for me to realize that all of the agencies agreed on one issue, and that was interesting. So great event as always. Session Aqua, I attended the Aqua 9 regional meeting as well. So great speakers. The breakfast the first day was kind of long, but it was it was focused on equity and inclusion. So that was a very different topic that I thought that was. But other than that, it was an excellent conference.
Laura?
All right, well, first, I wanted to report out on Aqua JPIA. This was my first time going as our representative, and two things, well, more than two, but Monterey is beautiful, and if you have to go up early for a conference, what better place than Monterey to go to? But I thoroughly enjoyed the JPIA portion. It started it was Monday and part of Tuesday, and we had a pre-board meeting lunch, which was pretty informal, and you just sort of chatted with the folks at your round table, and so I got to meet a few people there. It's so funny, like I met this one girl from Joshua Tree, I think it's Joshua Tree Municipal Water, but don't quote me. And I swear I ran into her at like almost every session that I was in. And then there were other people that I hardly ever saw, but we were apparently in the same circles. And then we had a very full board of directors meeting with elections, and unfortunately, Andy Morrison, right? Morris, which was who we were supporting. He did not, there were 12 or 13 folks running for 4 openings. So he did not get in, but he was so gracious. They each gave their remarks, couple minutes each, and I listened to everybody because I knew there was likely going to be more than one ballot. And so I thought, well, if I have to pick someone else, I better figure out who that might be. But I loved what he said when he got up there. He said, any one of these candidates will be good for JPIA. And I just thought that kind of said a whole lot about his character, and he has such good experience in the insurance industry. But maybe another time he will get in. We reelected 1 incumbent and 3 new folks, so it'll be interesting to have some new opinions on that board. And then that evening, Andy Sells, who was here not too long ago giving a presentation, they had a retirement dinner for him. And at first I was like, well, I felt kind of funny going because I didn't really know him. But I thought I was so glad I went because you got to hear all the great things about him. And they have done, JPIA has done such a, in my opinion, wonderful succession planning. Andy is actually still there through the end of September. And then Adrian, who's going to take over, is already there, and has been. So they've just really worked. It seems like there won't be any kind of a gap, or a glitch in their transition. So that was pretty cool. Then the next morning, I attended, it was called Leadership, Digital Strategy, and Technology Risk. And the presenter was Scott Klosowski. And Craig, I picked up an extra set of, he had like a little pamphlet of notes. I left it with Tammy, and I'm just gonna briefly talk about it today, but I wanna go back and do a more in-depth report for you because it was fascinating. It was about AI and how it's coming and what it is likely gonna look like and what agencies are doing. And I was just thoroughly impressed. And he was very free with his information. There is a PowerPoint, which I have not been able to get yet. I just haven't had the time to dig for it, that he's like happy to share with anybody. So I always appreciate that when someone shares their expertise like that and they are doing it for the greater good kind of a thing. So yeah, that was awesome. And then in the afternoon, I did attend the Sites Reservoir update. And they were very optimistic, which was encouraging. I hope that their optimism proves out to be true. But things seem to be looking like they're moving in a good direction. So that was encouraging for that. So that was pretty much for JPIA. And then as far as the Aqua Conference, I agree. I thought it was really good. In a couple of the other ones that I've gone to, sometimes there have been a segment of sessions during a particular time of day that I've gone, well, none of these really, appeal to me, but I didn't feel that way this time. I felt like there were worthwhile things at every session. So I would like to mention that I did sign up for the Water Circuit Walk, which was at 7 a.m. on Thursday, and that was cool. We met outside the main conference area, and we walked on the path toward the aquarium, and that was fun. They gave you a T-shirt and a water bottle, and I walked with, it was do it at your own pace. You could run, but I couldn't run. So I was glad to participate in that. I attended the Region 9 meeting, which it was nice hearing all the committee reports because a lot of the committees meet at the same time. So even if you chose to go to one committee meeting, it was like you could only go to that one. So it was nice hearing from all the different ones and feeling the energy about the Salton Sea trip. That was very, very cool, I thought. So I think those were the main things. Of course, I've scribbled all over my agenda, but, and I stayed all the way, and Director Denstedt ended up staying too. So I went to the Innovation Forum, which was the last segment of the conference, and Brenda, you went to the regional one, right? Yeah. Yes. And so we covered 2 of the last workshops, and then I had never gone to the closing reception, which is a much smaller and more casual, and everyone is like, kind of feeling at it. So that was nice. It was outside and finished up with that. So it was just a really, really great experience. I'm thinking it's probably one of my favorite ones that I've been to. That was my 4th one.
Well, and let me add a couple of things too, then backtrack, sorry. One, we had some conversation with the incoming, expected at least, Kathy Green. So we had some discussions about how conference could be a little bit better next time, which was I think, received pretty well by her just to do that. There's been some discussions, because those of us that have been in the Wilder world for a really long time remember that Thursday night was generally a night of entertainment that you could buy tickets for, and then they had the Hans Doe breakfast afterwards on Friday to keep people at conference for the stuff. So there's some talk about, hopefully we can bring that back, so we'll see what happens with that. But I thought something else too that was really interesting was the fact that in the vendors exhibit hall area, there were some very different things, and I think we need to talk to Craig about getting the leak detection dogs here.
Oh, yeah.
That was, yeah.
Oh, super cool.
To detect leaks or to pet?
No,
They
to
were
both.
very friendly.
Both. I think staff
I don't
would
think
have
they really
fun.
do
I
any
think this
work.
could really reduce our stress level over here to have the dogs
Their
come
real
and
job
detect
was
leaks.
to make us all feel better.
You know, so, but, you know, some very different vendors that were at this that we had some very entertaining conversations with. So it's nice to see that, you know, it's not the same old, that there's new generation, new blood coming in. And there were some interesting out-of-state vendors too that I've had some conversations with, just to see, they're trying to get into the California market to try to see what they can do and what their product can bring. So just interesting. I'm glad to see that Aqua's Reach we're getting back out there and we're engaging with more folks, because you never know when the next hot idea is going to come or who it's going to come from. And what's going to revolutionize our industry, right? So always great to see new people pitching new things and new ideas. Absolutely. So, and I also wanted to mention too, because I don't know that this was mentioned, that we were a finalist for an award this year. And we didn't win.
We're proud to be a finalist.
But
We got a trophy, though.
but
We got a trophy.
but we did get recognized. We did get a trophy, and you know what? I don't want that to diminish anything that staff did.
Yeah.
The bar was high, and to be in that pool and to be recognized in front of a group of our peers at such a large conference and to come out as one of the top 4 is a big deal, guys. So kudos to staff for all the work that you do.
We did get robbed. So,
Heather and I have had about 5 conversations about that so far, Heather Dyer.
so on the leak detection dogs, they're really interesting. The ones that they had there, they had 2 Labrador retrievers, and these ones are trained to detect the scent of chlorine, and they can detect in dirt. They can detect a leak 20 feet below the surface, and they're super accurate. So I concur. I think we probably need to have a leak detection dog. It can live in the HR director's office and be used for other purposes as appropriate.
Can I
So,
third this motion?
They were really very nice and friendly dogs.
I make a motion.
Detect a pet coming their way from about 20 feet.
Oh, there we go. I love it. Okay.
So other things from Aqua, it was mentioned that Craig was on a panel, and it was not a super comfortable one for him to be on, I don't think. But the part of the discussion that I like best, there's some discussion about a likely coming water bond. And Craig was asked, well, you like bonds, right? And Craig said, well, yes, I like bonds, but I want to know what the bond's going to be spent on before I approve it. And we really need to have a plan before we raise the money to spend. And he said, yes, my board would never give me millions of dollars, and I would decide what to do with it later. So I bring them a plan, and they said, yeah, that makes sense, we'll fund it, or no, we have a different priority. And it was a good discussion, and he did it in a way that was not adversarial, complimentary to the other people. He just said, love bonds. It's a good way to do special kinds of projects, but I really do think you need to know what it is you're raising the money for before you go raise the money. And that was really well received by program participants, and it was recognized professionally by the other panelists who had a different perspective.
Well, but I think in the very end, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the lady from the Public Policy Institute really was in your corner, and she was in agreement with you, and that's a huge win for us. I mean, that's like a first time deal.
Yeah.
At least every time I've ever seen him speak. So that's a big win in our column.
Yeah, it was. And Craig just did his normal outstanding job, so thank you. And I would point out that his performance evaluation is coming up. One of the sessions was on conveyance, and it was an interesting group of folks. The thing that struck me first was they all felt like they were left out. They felt like the focus was on water capture and water storage. And I think most of the audience thought, no, it's a three-legged proposition, and you need all three. You've got to be able to get the water, you got to be able to move it to where you can store it, you got to be able to store it, then you got to be able to move it to where you need it. But that was, I think, a good discussion. I learned more about the Friant Canal, which moves a lot of federal water and is an important big Central Valley, Central California conveyance system. People talked about how nice Monterey is. There was an event Wednesday evening at the aquarium. So we got to roam around the aquarium, which was pretty nice. They had pretty good food, including a really good sushi table, which seemed to be a bit out of place in some people's minds, but, every place has to update their exhibits every so often. So, it was, it was really good sushi. I think that's pretty much it for Aqua. I would just point out, and this really is Director Roten's, there's another fun event Saturday morning. There's a fundraiser for Habitat for Humanity for their veterans housing program. And the event consists of people raising some money and then rappelling off the top of a 10-story building in downtown Riverside. And at 9 o'clock, I will be rappelling off the top of the DA's building. So if anybody's in downtown Riverside with nothing to do, you can come laugh and point. But it really is a good event, and I hope it does well. So, and that's.
I appreciate you mentioning it, and I just wanted to add to that I believe you have gone over the most times of anyone. No one has proven me wrong on that, because you've gone over multiple times at any particular event.
Each of the preceding
So I
five.
actually think you've probably gone over the most.
Maybe.
I'll let you know if someone tells me I'm wrong, but I'm standing by it. And thank you for participating.
Well, of course. It's actually pretty fun, and it's a great cause, but that's it, I think, for director's comments.
Absolutely.
Request for future agenda items? And anything additional to report from Region 9, Brenda?
No.
Covered it pretty thoroughly. We have informational items. Anything that you want to highlight, Mr. Miller?
Nothing to highlight unless there are questions.
Anybody have questions? Okay. Our next meeting is June the 7th, right here in this room at 9:30 in the morning. And with that, we will be adjourned. Thank you all.